The college football experience, Big 12 win total locks episode and playoff picks on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. They just announced college football best ball, folks. What are you doing? Get on over there. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL projections are now live. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
Hey, this is Pac-Man Jones. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Welcome to the college football experience. Big 12 win totals, locks, and CFP playoff picks, and quad box. Big 12. Look, this is fantastic. YouTube.com/the college experience. Remember, breaking down all 134 teams, but also every single conference in the land. And look, NC Nick's up in upper. What do they call it? The UP in Michigan. All right, we don't need his nonsense. He's always hating on the Big 12 anyway, that ACC bastard. All right, Patty C's drunk at some dive bar somewhere in the west of the Mississippi. So you figure it out there. So I brought on like the people that really know the Big 12. All right, they really know the Big 12. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Kobe Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
I am the type of guy to show up by your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos and a gap tooth. Gap teeth, gap tooth. I don't know how to say that shit. All right, but I'm excited because I can pick winners and the air flows smoothly through my gaps. All right? And hopefully they're not gaps like on Colorado Buffalo offensive line or defensive line last season. Yeah, might have had some issues. Look, I brought in the team. This is fantastic. Quad box. So I feel like I'm in the studio watching college football. I am joined by my co-host. You've heard him on the college basketball experience with me. Most of the time, I would say, might be slightly intoxicated on about 98.9% of those episodes. He's also the host of the Ryan and Rush Show. He is also the host of the Big 12 Experience, which you should be subscribed to all of those. Give it up for former video coordinator for Hall of Fame coach Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Moneyline Mac, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. Welcome to America's League, everybody. You can make the case for about, 11, 12 teams to win this. This is a futures market dream in this league. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. And look, folks, once again, maybe you're an ACC head. Maybe you're a group of five guy. Maybe you're a Big 10 SEC and you're not familiar with the Big 12 experience. Well, look, you sometimes you want to know what the enemy is doing. So subscribe. All right. And part of the trio that is the Big 12 experience is all here, right here. That's what I recruited. I went out of there. I went on a recruiting trip. I cut Patty C and NC Nick from this shit. They weren't qualified. All right. Next, he is also the host of the Ryan and Rush Show with Moneyline Mac here. And obviously one of the hosts of the Big 12 experience. Give it up for Rush Bishop. How are you doing, brother?
Doing great. Excited to go. Big 12, the greatest league in the land. For those who are getting familiar with me, I was born in Provo, Utah, and live in Morgantown, West Virginia. So a little bit of a walking contradiction, but I've seen it from all sides, and I'm ready to go tonight. The best.
I don't get. They're cold, but they're counting down 7-6.
I think everyone in the chat just went.
I don't get.
Provo and Morgantown.
Yeah, something like that. Either 0 to 100. There's no in between. Black and white.
Look, I haven't done the Lavelle Edwards experience in Provo, but the way I would imagine is like they give you like a Capri Sun after like a score, whereas
orange slices.
Yeah,
Cougar tails.
Here, have an orange slice. It's chilled too. Meanwhile, I have been to Morgantown, and I did get pepper sprayed. Not directly me. One of the fine people. Well, there was no camera phones back in 2002. One of the fine security officers of good old West Virginia decided it was a good idea to just pepper spray the entire part of the crowd. So I was having a cocktail. Well, sipping a beer, watching Virginia Tech and West Virginia play in the Big East, when a large amount of pepper spray went in my face. Very cool experience. See but I was pissed drunk, with pink ass eyes. Everyone thought I was smoking weed. I might have partake a little bit, but I'm saying like it was just a perfect storm. But my point is that they're very different. There was couches on fire. I might have slept in the bushes that night, and I don't think. Yeah, exactly. In Provo, I don't know who sleeps on the bushes. Who's does that happen in Provo? Too many diabetics, too much sugar.
There's other things going on in Provo that happen. It's oh man, I love this league.
I don't even know that I want to know. Look, we're also joined by third man in the booth, and look, if you're on YouTube.com/The College Experience, he's already got the Baylor attire. Yes, we pay players. Give it up for the third leg of the Big 12 College Experience. Troy Tuning, how are you doing, brother? Started the beer snake at those DC Defenders games. I know half the audience is saying, who the fuck are the Defenders? They're Googling that right now. But don't worry. If anytime you start a trend like that, doesn't matter where you're at, street cred. How you doing, brother?
Well, always got to shout out the Wrigley Field bleachers for the original beer snakes. And then the idea that they could tell the security guards to go take down the beer snakes, which of course just spawns more and more beer snakes. You got to let them, pick one area and take it over and then, confine it to there. But I'm a little disappointed that we got recruited over Patty C and Nick and no strippers showed up. I'm only going to schools that are bringing strippers and money. So come on, Colby.
Is Ken Starr still your president? That's when you know the program's dirty as fuck. You know what I mean? If they got someone that's that deep into politics as your school president, you're just like, oh, I like this. Me, because I think it's just humor. Like this is college football 101. We were talking pre-episode of like SMU's history and how they kind of got dealt a shitty hand. Now, yes, were they cheating? But Texas and Texas A&M were really the true pieces of shit behind the scenes there. If you dive into that story, I would say they are the villains more so than SMU. Wow, we got Noah Beanick behind the scenes. Thank you, Noah. I don't know what I'm doing over here. This looks organized. This looks a lot better. Guys, we got like 35 fucking teams in the Big 12 now. And it's incredibly hard to forecast a championship game. Do we actually know the tiebreakers?
No.
Fantastic.
It's not released yet. TBD. Depends on the playoff scenarios. You got to rig. If everybody else is going to rig their league, we might as well rig it too.
Well, some have started to come out, but I didn't. I must admit that I should have Googled that before this episode because maybe they came out today or yesterday. But that is when you have these gigantic teams. I feel like that's going to matter in and especially in this conference where like there's no clear Wake Forest or Boston College or something or Vanderbilt where like okay, I feel like every single fan base, even Houston, with a brand new coach, I think like Willie Fritz is such a good coach that you could just say we could do this year. We could do this. So I think every team feels like it's got a chance, and that is to me what's going to make it. I think it's the most interesting Power 5 conference to watch this year. I know other people will say, well, I mean, all of them are going to be interesting because you're seeing this gigantic change in the sport. But obviously 16 teams in the new Big 12. And if you haven't caught any of our locks episodes, we're going to go one by one, locking up either an over and under we like. And then at the end, futures and college football playoff projections, how many teams are going to make the playoffs, what's the Big 12 championship game look like? And that's the rhythm of this show, folks. But before we dive into all of that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We are part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and the Sports Gambling Podcast just launched their 32-team NFL preview series. Look, no matter how wacky and cockamamie and amateur that bullshit new NFL kickoff is, there's still money to be made in the National Football League. All right. So hop on over there. They got 32 episodes for 32 teams, and they're giving out a $500 Circa future for the listeners. Plus the EPL returns. So make sure to check out the Soccer Gambling Podcast and the Premier League Gambling Podcast for your footy fix. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast and the SGPN app, which is free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. All right. Before we dive into this, is there anything you want to say about this new Big 12 Moneyline Mac? I know you talk about it every day, so it's probably a stupid question by me, but is there anything, first off, this time next year, will it still be 16 teams?
I think so. Well, definitely for next season. July seems to always be the month where everybody gets the conference realignment going because they want football's not on the horizon yet. So I think that you'll see the alignment pick up again in June, July, but then once we get to August, it'll be all football. I think it's another year before we get some more expansion, but hey, I think the league is as strong as ever. I think it's as unified as ever. I know it's a presidential election year, so like
I'm about to say,
like
God damn!
Did you practice
this in the mirror? Did you practice this in the mirror before the episode?
Exactly. Hey, you didn't know it? I've run as a third party, so yeah, I think Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma out, but love the 4 newcomers from last year. Love the 4 newcomers this year. 16 strong, baby.
Let's go. Troy, how do you feel about the state of the conference? And next year, will it be, you think, still the same 16?
I don't know if they'll add another team before the beginning of the football season next year. I definitely understand the gas station affiliation athletic conference. I was thinking maybe if they could get to 66 teams in the Big 12, then they could be the Phillips 66, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, you got to have goals, right?
I don't know how the tiebreaker would work in that league for sure, but I think the realignment, we might see a little bit of a pause here and check out how these super conferences do, at least for a season, and maybe we see some of the tiebreak scenarios that kind of make these conferences think we might have enough teams right now until we get, Clemson and Florida State have a real shot, or like finally are given their freedom to go somewhere, which will then be the next. It's like the free agent signing in the NFL that opens up the rest of the market.
The trickle down. Yeah. Shout out to Easy in the chat. It says Sheets is winning that conference, Noah. Yeah. Shout out to Sheets. I did go to high school with a guy that at the time would deal all of his drugs via, you would order a sandwich at Sheets and he would put it in the fucking sandwich. It was genius. It's genius. Besides the fact that, you're kind of like, where the hell's you got like half a sandwich. You're like, I'm kind of hungry here. But shout out to Sheets, because big fan of selling drugs. And look, 16 teams. So far, you guys think we're going to have 16 teams next year at this point. Rush, do you share the same sentiment with them?
I do. From a literal standpoint, I think this time next summer is where we'll be last summer, where they announce 4 more teams, but it takes another year for that to kick in. I think the ACC is a ticking time bomb. And you brought up the ACC being enemies. They can be enemies all they want, but if you can't beat them, join them. So, one day your enemy's talking politics, the next day, you're a vice presidential candidate for your enemy. So, hey, we could see that next year with the Big 12. But this, for those that aren't as familiar with the Big 12, this is by far the most fun conference. Gundy may not like this word, but most people do. It's the conference of parity. There is a double-edged sword component to this, because I know we'll talk about this later, how many playoff teams from the Big 12 we could see going. The problem is, with all the parity, you end up beating each other up. So that may only leave one left, but you also have the most fun regular season there too. So it's the double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch the whole race. Pretty much every single game, I think, is appealing in some sort of way for the hardcore college football fan. All right, well, let's get to it. But before we do that, I want to tell you folks out there that the college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. If you go 8-0 on your, you can win 325 times your entry there at Underdog Fantasy, or play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball Mania. All right. Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. NC Nick and Moneyline Mac did an episode already. Go listen to that on this very feed. I've been waiting for college football best ball, honestly, since like the George W. administration. I feel like at least, right? Because when did best ball like become really popular? I feel like somewhere right around there. That Underdog's finally providing this great platform to do this. So what are you doing, folks? Hop on over there, check it out. And Underdog just launched their season-long college football projections. I am on the under on oh man, why am I drawing a blank on the Duke quarterback right now that transferred to Notre Dame?
Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard. Jesus, I have a hard time with that name. Riley Leonard transferred over to Notre Dame. Notre Dame just lost their left tackle. I am on the under on the passing yards prop for him, and I'm also on the over on LaQuint Allen, which I believe was like 800 some yards, the running back for Syracuse. But that's some of the stuff that they offer. Like there's like a ton of players you can do for season long stat projections. So if you really feel bullish on some of these players, like I really think there's great value that you can't get anywhere else, folks. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries as well. So what are you doing? Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back, and it is that time. Give me that music. Let's go. Let's go. Margarita's up. Moneyline Mac, I'm going to have you bat first here. What is a play? It doesn't have to necessarily be your strongest play, but if you feel like stating that it's your strongest play, feel free to. But what is a lock? What is one that you are certainly going to the window? Because by the way, this exercise, when I did the Big Ten and SEC and ACC and Mountain West, maybe not the Mountain West, but the other three conferences, I had a longer list of locks. I have a shorter list because that basically plays to the parity that we were just discussing. But anyway, start us off with a lock of yours that you are going to the window and you've either already bet or you're going to bet.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my favorite one because it's kind of hard to separate all these. So we talked about parity. Well, let's go to the basement. Houston over 3.5 wins, -140. Yeah, I mean, Lance Leipold, I think they finally caught up to him. So here's our new Leipold. It's going to be Willie Fritz. They're sleeping on him. I know that the roster, there's not a lot coming back, but this guy can flat out coach. Donovan Smith's back for about his 1,000th year in college football. I think they can get out of the non-con 2-1 with UNLV and Rice. Then all you got to do is get two more. You got Baylor and BYU at the end. But then I think you also got trap spots, and they're going to get better and better under Fritz in year one. So I'm going over 3.5 wins. I think that's disrespectful to him.
I will join you. That is on my list. Now, Tony Mathis, their former Dub B running back, is out for the season. That just got announced the past 24 hours. He was not their projected starter, but I do think it was a guy that was going to get in the mix. Anyone else have Houston on the over or under?
This was my pick if Mac didn't say it.
Over?
Same.
Over the 3.5.
Yeah, we triple locked it on our episode.
This is beautiful.
I think they're going to have a shot against both Cincy and TCU kind of early to lock the over.
Yeah.
I agree. And quadruple lock, folks.
Friends through eternity, loyalty, honesty will stay together through thick or thin. Friends forever will be together.
I think I've locked Willie Fritz pretty much like, I've been doing the show, 7 years? I feel like
He's a moneymaker.
that's what I'm saying. And before, like at Tulane, they went with a triple right away. This is the Bob Toledo, or no, it was Curtis Johnson that left the program in such a mess that he thought the best way was to jump it right into the triple to improve them. So they were running the triple and making, I think they made a bowl game in their second season. But I think the talent level at Houston's better than what he walked into at Tulane. But even with that, I feel like he was always good to play for the over because I think honestly, like I honestly think you can make the argument. Now, we would all say Whittingham or Gundy or Leipold or Kleiman when it comes, or Malzahn maybe would for best coaches. I think Fritz is there. It's just he hasn't done it at a P5 level. But when he's done it everywhere else, whether it was Georgia Southern, whether you just follow whether it was Sam Houston State, the guy wins everywhere he goes. Has a great eye for talent. So I'm with you. I'm on the over, and I don't even have my wins. Like I know, and I can appreciate what you're doing there, Mac, of like pinpointing where you think these wins are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if, let's say they sputter game one, which like I said, I still think they're better than UNLV, but let's say they did sputter.
Yep.
The one thing I know is that Fritz's teams are going to get better with every giving week. So I think by the time, you're sitting there in November and you're thinking these are automatic losses, I think some of these teams, it's going to be more than they bargained for. Like, you sit there and say, okay, like the BYU game, even the Arizona game or Baylor game, all of those by the time we get to November, in my eyes, are winnable games for Houston. So in case they do slip against UNLV out the gate, or maybe in the Bayou Bucket Classic, Rice gets them. I don't know. Rice got him last year. I thought actually, if anything, I kind of like Houston's revenge. But I'm with you. Like I think there's just so many spots. I even think they could beat Utah at home on the 26th. It wouldn't, like Fritz by that point, I think they're going to start to turn a corner. So every game is going to be I totally love the over here. I think it's one of the better plays you can do as far as this whole conference. Because I'll be honest, some of these locks on the conference, like I had to talk myself into one, right? Where I was like, well, I mean, we got to do a podcast.
Yeah.
You know content. What I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's one that I don't know. Like I'm still going to bet it because I'm doing this very show, but I had to talk myself into it. But anyway, Troy, you are up next. What's another lock that you have marked down for this coming season in the Big 12?
This is another basement team I see this year for the Big 12, but I'm going to go ahead and lock this under for BYU at 4.5. Kind of piggybacking off of the Fritz, and I'll throw Kenny Dillingham in there as well. BYU, they play some tough home games. So where they would typically thrive, they get, K-State, Arizona, and Oklahoma State at home, and Kansas at home. Those aren't necessarily lock wins for them. And then they end the season with Arizona State and Houston with two new coaches that by that point in time are probably turning the corner. And maybe Sataki's not even there at that point. And for that reason, I will be locking the under 4.5 on BYU.
Well, my first thing, I want to react to it, but Rush, being a BYU fan, your thoughts, are you in unison with your friend here?
No, I think Sataki's absolutely on the hot seat. But 4.5, they're at least going 5-7. I personally think they're going 6-6. I think they turn it around this year. I know to Troy's point, they got a lot of tough opponents at home. But the weird thing about BYU is they always come alive when they play the tough ones, and then they fall down flat when they play the games that they should win. I think Sataki does just enough and goes 6-6 this year. It's bowl or bust for him. If he goes anything less than 6-6, he's out this year. There's already talks that if the offense isn't looking too good in the first couple games, Roderick's out as their offensive coordinator. And those things are very possible. But 4.5 for BYU, like they're two good as a program to not win at least 5 games. I really believe that. I've just seen it growing up. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen them blow a lot of games that they shouldn't, but they do have this knack for showing up when they need to show up. I really like him at 6-6 this year. One of my locks is not the one I'll say when you turn it over to me, but I think BYU hits that 4.5 over. I really do.
Battle.
Are you battling?
No. They have a battle. I'm sending this one out.
So that's a lock. You're locking up the over?
Yeah, I'll lock it up. Let's do it.
Well, I was going to
confident.
too. I was going to too. Let's go. We got a problem. I am.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
Let's do some battle. I trust this BYU culture.
I do too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that they do have a legit home field advantage. That, maybe one of the tops in the conference. And my thing is, this is the one I did have to talk myself into, just so you know, folks. This is the one that I was searching for another one. And I feel pretty good about this. I think Kalani Sitake is actually a good football coach. I think sometimes you just get dealt a tough hand. And I also think sometimes you get lied to. Like, they should have never gotten Keaton Slovis. I could have told you he was going to play for like 3 weeks. A stiff breeze, knocks that guy out for the season. And I knew I was paranoid on that. Now, I was on the over last year with BYU, but I also knew that they had a lot of injuries. I also think this is the second year with Jay Hill. And now they have multiple quarterbacks that I think are better than Keaton Slovis. Slovis, anywhere he's been, they've lost. Like USC was supposed to be good. You start him, they struggle. Pitt was supposed to be good. Not with Keaton Slovis. You know what I mean? It's something about him. I saw the DC Defenders draft him in the UFL, and I was like, oh God. It's like fade the Defenders in the beer snake next year. So I just think the culture is too strong there. Another thing is we're another year removed from COVID. BYU normally has that advantage of having like 10 guys, that are like 43 years old on their roster. And the other like 40 are like 25. So the further we get away from COVID, the more I think that's going to pay off. And this program has been good over the years. So I look at it as Southern Illinois as a flat out win, even though the Salukis are a good FCS. So they need to take that they need to take that seriously. Then I think they can beat SMU at the old Gerald Ford Stadium there. Now, I'm not saying they definitely will, but the way I look at it is they'll get one of these two between that and the rivalry game in Laramie. If anything, if you look at teams going to Laramie, they normally always lose, with the exception to BYU. BYU's actually been one of the few teams that is like done all right in Laramie. Maybe it's they're both at the elevation. They're used to a hostile crowd. I don't know, but for whatever reason, they've played Wyoming well in Laramie. So I think they're going to be 2-1. There's a chance they could be 3-0, especially because I don't know if you guys caught this, but Wyoming star running back Harrison Whaley just went down. Now, I am still bullish on Wyoming, but he is their best player on offense. But then after that, Kansas State comes to town. Arizona comes to town off of a bye week, right? Oklahoma State, a nationally televised game. That crowd is too much. I feel like this team is just better than it was a year ago. They're going to beat some of these teams. And then obviously at Arizona State to end the season, it is hard to win in the desert, but I think BYU's a better football team. And I also think they're a better coach team. And another thing is the final game of the season against Fritz. Maybe Fritz gets them because Fritz, I do believe is that good of a coach, but still that if it was at Houston, I'd feel a lot better about it. Going to Lavelle Edwards, legit home field advantage. I'm on the over. Rush, anything you want to add to that?
A couple years ago, I know these are different teams now, but when BYU was still independent, they beat Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State all in the same season. BYU, they do this, and I'll tell you right now how those first 3 games are going to go. They'll beat Southern Illinois, they'll upset SMU. Take it right now, the money line. They're going to beat SMU in that game, and then they'll lay an egg against Wyoming. I've seen it time after time. You'll get nice like, oh, BYU's looking good. They went into Dallas, beat SMU, lose to Wyoming. So that's how the first 3 games are going to play out. No doubt in my mind.
They have a legit shot at finishing the season 0-7.
Wait, what?
They have a legitimate shot at losing to Arizona, Oklahoma State, UCF, Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston.
Oh,
no,
the last 7.
That's fair. That's fair. The last 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I was wrong last year on BYU. I just trust the culture. I trust the home field advantage, and I actually believe that Kalani Sitake is a good football coach. So I'm siding with that, and I like the Jay Hill hire. I think that will pay off more this year than last year. So there is that right there. Rush, do you have actually, hold on. Before we get to your next lock or your first lock, I want to tell the fine people out there that the college football experience is brought to you by Rhythm. Yes, football season is here, and college football and NFL models are live on Rhythm now. Create your own winning betting model or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. That's right. You decide what matters most for you. All right. Maybe you like certain stats more, and then Rhythm will build a custom model around that. Or maybe you're just a lazy piece of shit that wants to sit back, crack a beer, and cash in, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So you could do that, and then Rhythm and its predictive model will do all the heavy lifting for you. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists and quants. I know Moneyline Mac was calling me a quant the other day when we were talking. He said, "Colby, you're a quant when it comes to handicapping these Big 12, win totals." And I go, "Thank you, sir." Look, Rhythm already has you covered for NFL Week 1 and college football Week 0. Me, by the way, I think this line dropped, so I've been doing all these ad reads for this as I continue the 134 team previews. I like Georgia Tech plus 13. I already placed that wager. It is at like 12 or 11.5 now. So I appreciate all the downloads. Anyway, claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Have you been to Circa in Vegas? I mean, delete Field of Dreams, because that's fucking heaven. All right. When you come out of Stadium Swim, you don't need to come out of the cornfields. You come out of the pool at Stadium Swim, and you go, "Is this heaven? Is this heaven?" Because that's pretty much what Derek Stevens built there. Yeah, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Look, if you don't have a trip booked yet for Vegas before football season, may I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend. It's a great time to go out. You can hang with my friends from the Sports Gambling Podcast, Sean Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer, as well as my pal, the bet detective CJ Sullivan will be there. And look, enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Also, maybe need a little help on the hotel room there. SGP 15 to save you 15% off your hotel rooms for that sign up weekend there. But you do want to sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th, and you can use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with the proxy. Go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. All right, back talking Big 12. We've got our first battle out of the way. We've had a lock unison already. What the fuck is next? Rush, where are you taking us?
So when you were talking about Houston, you were talking about Fritz and comparing him to the other great coaches in the Big 12. You left out one very important coach in the Big 12, and that is Matt Campbell. I love Iowa State, the over 7.5. Their schedule is it's not bad compared to the rest of these schedules, speaking from a West Virginia fan. I love them in Cyhawk this year. That seems to be a rivalry that goes every other year. Their last two games are interesting. We'll talk about those later at Utah and Kansas State. But besides those games, maybe a tough game in Morgantown. Rest of those games are very winnable. As we know, Campbell doesn't do the transfer portal. He just keeps retaining, bringing back a lot of guys this year. No gambling scandals as of now that I'm aware of.
I'm working on that. I'm working on an angle. I keep DMing their Facebook accounts, but none of these kids use Facebook anymore. So ends up being the guy with the same name that's like living in fucking Topeka or something. I don't know, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to get into these gambling angles here.
Technically, we broke that last year.
That's right. I think that was you. That
it was Troy.
Yeah.
We broke that like 3 days beforehand, and then the whole preview was bullshit, except for the 5 lines that I said, if these guys get suspended, they're going to be in trouble.
We all saw that video of Hunter Deckers just absolutely hammered at a bar, talking shit into the camera. What you don't know is that Troy was doing Jaeger bombs with them. If you pan left, there was 4 lines of blow and some Jaeger bombs. Allegedly. Anyway, Rush, continue on. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I love Iowa State this year. I think they're definitely a contender to win the Big 12 championship. I think they're going that right amount under the radar where they're respected, but no one's really talking about them, especially with all the conference expansion talk. Obviously, what Campbell's done at Iowa State has been incredible. I mean, from a West Virginia side of things, you used to have Kansas and Iowa State automatic wins every year. Obviously, that's not the case for either of them. Love the over 7.5 for Iowa State.
Anyone else? Like, here's the thing I'll say is, like, for me, I'm a big Matt Campbell fan too. I think he's a fantastic football coach. Even though why I'm a little confused is because he did play football at Pitt for a year. But that's what's a little confusing to me about all of this. But no, I tend to think he's just a really, really, and you're right, I should have mentioned him in that vein with the other great coaches. My thing, the only reason why it's not a lock for me, I mean, I actually leaned slight under, but I don't feel, I always take the over with Iowa State for I feel like, but when they're projected to be great, I always feel like, right? Because they play every game. It's like Kirk Ferentz, but Kirk Ferentz has mastered winning the close game better than Matt Campbell. And I'm not talking head to head. I'm talking about in general. But I could totally see this hitting. I could totally see Iowa State winning the Big 12. So I'm not locking it. I just think every game is like a fucking 4-point game. So I'm just like, like one holding penalty or one missed field goal, or one made field goal. If you saw the Ohio game last year, I mean, what the hell was that? Anyone else touch this, Mac? No,
I'd probably lean to the over. I think they're going to go 8-4, but I mean, I could lay out a path to 5 losses at Iowa, at West Virginia, at Kansas, at Utah, K-State, and Farmageddon. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm starting to get Texas Tech vibes with this team where everybody, it's kind of the sleeper pick. It's not a sexy pick, but it's kind of the sleeper pick.
Yeah.
I would lock this under at 6-6.
Oh, another battle, Troy.
Are you battling? Are you doing this? I
think they have to beat Iowa to get anywhere close to 7 wins.
So you're locking this? Is a battle? We got a battle?
I'm definitely locking them at 6 wins, like an exact win.
Now we got a problem.
Lock battle, baby.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
Let's go. We got a battle in Ames. All right. Between two pals, the host of the Big 12 College Experience. Subscribe. Troy Tuning saying, fuck you, Rush Bishop. Anyway, fantastic stuff here. And Troy, feel free to make more of a point on why you feel confident about the under there.
I don't see them getting Iowa on the road, although
I don't either.
It does kind of seem like the road team has a little more success in that rivalry. But I think, like you said, it's going to be a pretty close game, and for some reason, Kirk Ferentz always finds a way to win the close games. Luckily, they get Houston kind of early, so that's probably a win. But coming down the stretch with Kansas, Cincinnati, Utah, and K-State, I could really see like a stall out happening there. And in order for them to get to 7.5, they're going to have to go on the road to Morgantown and also win that West Virginia game that I don't really see that happening.
There we go.
They're going to be 5-0 going into Morgantown. And then they have UCF and Ames, the hot weather team, October 19th. Texas Tech's in Ames, Cincinnati's in Ames.
7 wins. Starting 5-0.
Hey, we saw BYU 5-2 last year, so I mean, very valid.
I like arguing. I like hearing this argument.
Cincinnati even at 4-0 or 5-0, and they're going to have to win that West Virginia game or beat UCF at home, which I think might be a little more doable. But again, we'll get to UCF later. That's another massive lock that we haven't talked about quite yet.
Correct. And Troy, I always enjoy your backdrop. It's like are you in fucking Costa Rica right now? Is there like where are you in the world right now? That's what I want to know. Cause I see palm trees. I see just like plants on the wall. There's a mirror. Everything's what are you doing in the world? I'm curious. What's going on over there? What's behind the scenes? Pan the camera left and right. And I want to know, you don't have to, but I'm just saying.
Oh, we can.
Yeah.
So behind the
like
big screen TV is our.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Okay. It looks a little different than when you pan right. It looks a little different.
And then out there is the greenhouse with the weed in it.
Now it looks like a normal home. Before it just looked like fucking Tony Montana over here.
One last point on Iowa State. I do fear the sophomore slump from Rocco Becht. That's my biggest hiccup on them. I love Rocco Becht.
That is a real thing.
Hiccup. Yeah.
Look, as someone that's watched college football his whole life, you start, especially the quarterback sophomore slump. I don't know that I buy into the running back sophomore slump, but the quarterback one, you start going around town, all the scattered asses saying you want to hang out. Next thing you know, you're eating fucking cherry pie. You know what I mean? Anyway, anyway, goes back to me. Oh, okay. I haven't given one. I guess not back to me. I just confirmed one with Houston. I'm taking you to, I mean, the one I feel best about is UCF. I think UCF is providing KJ Jefferson stays healthy. I do think this is how we get cooked if we lose this. And Malzahn's a crazy coach. A lot of people love. I'm all over the place with Malzahn because there's certain games I watch that he drives me absolutely fucking crazy. Because it's like all you had to do was just run up the middle. Instead, you did like a double reverse pass. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? But I believe UCF over 7.5 wins will cash. I also think, well, we'll talk about them later in the market, but I just think the shoe's fitting what they're doing from an NIL collective. I thought they had some close losses a season ago. And look, if you go back and see Utah when they joined the Pac-12 or TCU when they joined the Big 12 back then, it was the second year that they made a big difference. Actually, I think maybe Utah went 5-7 the second year. But I think this is that turning the tide year, if I may say so myself. Yeah, I just feel like the schedule a lot. They have one of the easier schedules, I would say, as far as in conference, but also New Hampshire. They basically put 2 FCSs in the non-con. New Hampshire, who's a solid FCS, and Sam Houston State, who just jumped from the FCS a year ago. Very clever. I see what you're doing there, Gus Malzahn.
And their other non-con is pretty easy too against Florida.
Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife.
I think they'll be at that game. But they could be 3-0 in the non-con. I do think like it's always like UCF Super Bowl, and Florida will kind of, have some tough matchups before and after that, obviously. And then I love, like, to me, the away slate is very favorable. Like, if they can take care of business at home, which I think they will. I actually think they'll beat Utah at home. I think they'll beat Colorado at home. I think they'll beat Arizona and BYU at home. I actually think they're going to go undefeated at home. And then you're asking yourself, well, can you just win a few on the road? At TCU, I favor UCF. At Florida, I think they're going to win it, but I mean, Florida's kind of a mystery team this year. At Iowa State, I actually think they lose. But at Arizona State, which traditionally I would, if it had been any other Arizona State year, I would say they might lose that game. Arizona State's kind of still in reset mode. So I'm just not there yet with the Sun Devils. I do think they lose at West Virginia, but to me, if you can just get 2 of those wins on the road, who cares about the Florida game? Because that's not in conference. If you just get TCU and either Arizona State or Iowa State, you are probably going to end up in the Big 12 championship. So I do like the over, and shout out to GBO Farms giving us 20 American. Well, 1999. You are the fucking man, good sir. Appreciate you. Folks, youtube.com/the college experience. We will gladly take donations. All right. Yeah, guys, anyone want to join me on a lock?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll join you on this one. I think I liked Rise Plumlee, but I think KJ Jefferson's a significant upgrade for that offense. My biggest worry, though, would be Malzahn and his crazy shit. But you mentioned it, the schedule breaks nice. I think they really only are going to lose in Morgantown and in Ames, and then maybe in the Swamp or in Fort Worth. So, like, I think they hold surf, and I think they get this over.
Malzahn had a game at UCF a few years ago where he was playing Satterfield. It was Louisville at UCF. I was in Vegas, very intoxicated and very obnoxious in the sports book. He drove me absolutely fucking crazy because I feel like they were way better than Louisville, but they kept fucking around. Like, he is a coach to me. Like, obviously he's won a national championship. His offenses do great, but there are moments where you're just like, he outthinks himself. To me, it's like, you're just sitting there like, dude, this play works. They haven't stopped this stuff. And you're just doing some crazy shit. Like, he'll throw like a wide receiver screen back pass, like, and it'll get pick 6 when you didn't need to. You're up 10 with 5 minutes left in the game. That does make me a little paranoid, but he also can beat teams you're not supposed to beat. And that's what's great about Gus. But I am with you. Let's go. Anyone else want to join? We have two for 2 right now.
Troy's in
3 for 3.
I'm all over the UCF over. You could just tell at media days how Gus Malzahn was talking about how this isn't a 7-on-7 spread it out league anymore. And it's definitely a physical league. You can see the better teams in the league kind of transitioning to that ball control, run the ball offense. And UCF can fucking do that. RJ Harvey is a stud. They are going to be able to run the ball. Having
Penny
a big
Boone too. They got Penny Boone too.
I mean, it's just like Cam and the idea of like in the first 2 or 3 seconds, if you don't see anything, just tuck the ball and get your 4 or 5 yards, KJ. You can run through pretty much every linebacker in this league. And I know what you were hinting at for what else you would place on this team too, that I guess we'll get to later in terms of futures, but I'm all over that as well.
Yeah. Rush, I'm not sure. I don't want to peer pressure you, but here, smoke this weed, dude. What do you,
that always works on Rush.
Do you feel bullish about this one or are you just sitting back and watching?
I'm sitting back and watching. I agree with you guys on paper. UCF, they feel like a team that's either like 6-6 or 10-2, and there's no in between. And it just, I need to see it in the Big 12 first before I start going in. I need to see it. And I'm just the no fun guy in the weed circle. So
I respect you standing strong. All right. Because this weed's incredible. Let's go.
Moon bounce is a real home field advantage. Too.
That is the moon bounce.
All the boobies and cocaine. Oh man.
Oh yeah. Let's go.
Bath salt.
Bring your kids to Disneyland. Fucking have alligators eat them. Fantastic shit. Triple lock on UCF on the over. And Moneyline Mac, it bounces back to you, my friend.
Yeah, so I leaned BYU over. I took UCF over. I took Houston over. Well, let's go to the final newcomer from last year. In honor of Patty C, we are going to go over 5.5 wins for the Cincinnati Bearcats. They got their whole offensive line back. Does that ring a bell? West Virginia last year, they're going to run the shit out of the ball. Their schedule's soft. Towson, Pitt, they suck. At Miami of Ohio, Houston. Shit, they could start like 4-0. So then I think all you're doing is looking for 2 wins in the second half. Give me Cincinnati to get back to a bowl.
Well, I don't get bring the head cold.
Hey, look, I will say this. I'm not going to join you on the lock, but I do agree over is the play. You look at the schedule, like you said, I think they get revenge on Miami, Ohio, who caught them last year. And the Pitt game, I actually do think Pitt is going to get revenge on them, but I still think 3-1 by that point. You get Arizona State on October 19th. You got other winnable games. Obviously TCU on November 30th. Let me tell you something. If TCU is not sniffing the Big 12 championship, Cincinnati minus 21. All right. So I am with you on the over, I think, but I don't like him as a head coach. I don't. So I can't go all the way there. Once again, there's moments where and at App he did great, but at App Jerry Moore had that thing fine tuned, and he's like, oh, here's this Cadillac, right? Okay, and you didn't crash it. Fair. Even though you were jumping to the FBS, that's a slightly impressive thing, but I think that program was so good before it could have jumped any of those years and been fine. So I do lean over, but I am not locking it. Troy, locking up Cincinnati over under?
100% locking this over. The ultimate zag is to take Cincinnati and take the over, even though you hate the head coach. Exactly. This is my Keaton Slovis. Emory Jones gone is worth 3 wins.
I did see him fumble the other night in the NFL preseason with the game on the line.
That's not the first time that's happened.
How did he make the league?
No, I think they have a pretty good shot to maybe start 5-0.
I think I'm with you. I mean, that Pitt game, I'm just basing this on it's not like I feel that bullish on Pitt winning against Cincinnati. Yeah. I just think I'd slightly lean Pitt, but they could be 5-0. I mean, shit, I don't know. I mean, Texas Tech's already got some injuries preseason that have me a little concerned. Definitely like 4-0 is certainly in play. So yeah,
they get Arizona State at home.
Yeah. Yeah, and who knows?
Is a great schedule.
It is. No, it's probably the best schedule out of any team in the Big 12. If I had to like pigeonhole the schedules and rank them, I think they have the friendliest schedule in the Big 12. Rush, any chance you're locking up Cincinnati on the over or under?
I think this weed circle just became a meth circle. I'm staying so far away from this, not even with a 10-foot stick. Here's how I'm going to answer this. I'll answer it with a question. How did Louisville do when Satterfield left?
Yeah.
That's all.
I was on that, by the way. I was on that.
Need 6-6.
Yeah. Yeah. All you need is mediocrity, right? And yeah, I mean, how about that Iowa State player last season? Tried to chug that Skyline chili after the game and vomit it on the field. One of my favorite moments from last season. All right, so we got a double lock. I'll play the double lock music right there. Cincinnati on the over. Shop till you drop, customers. And Troy, it goes back to you, man. The floor is yours. If you have any, and feel free. I'm not forcing you into this.
We have plenty of locks.
Okay.
We have plenty of locks. This one's this is the system play. This is especially if you can find it at 8, you got to lock the Oklahoma State over. Even at 8.5, I'm pretty confident in that. Mike Gundy wins 7 fucking games every year, no matter what. Not a great team last year, and fucking pulled a Big 12 championship appearance basically out of his ass. They played so many quarterbacks last year that the intro photo for this episode was the backup quarterback for Oklahoma State.
I noticed that.
Garrett Rangel is sitting there fucking.
I didn't build that shit. All right.
I'm like, Bowman.
Yeah.
I just picked them to go 12-0 in their in our Oklahoma State season preview episode. But I'm definitely on the over 8.5. Their whole team's back. They've got 7 linemen that are either seniors by eligibility as like redshirt juniors, or they're super seniors that are redshirt seniors. The weakest player is their quarterback, and all he's got to do is not throw 14 picks like he did last year. Yeah. And somehow, even with 14 picks, they crushed their over last year. So I'm all over Mike Gundy. He's the best coach in the land. He's got the best video clips. He's basically the Donald Trump of college football, and we love him.
Says whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah. But
I drunk drive 1,000 times. That's not a big deal.
He said within the legal limit. He didn't say, I get, a lot of people shit on him for that take. I think I understand what he was trying to say. I don't think he phrased it the best way, but
yeah,
he was trying to say, yeah. Yeah. Well, and also it's Oklahoma. Come on. He could kill somebody, and I feel like he can get away with that in Oklahoma. No. Stand your own ground. Right. But anyone else? I'm not going to lock the over, even though I feel like, Gundy's a proven winner. So I just think this year's schedule is much, much harder than last season's.
Yeah.
I think they could lose any of their non-con games. And then I just think this year's schedule, it presents a lot more challenges. And I tend to not like when Gundy's getting the hype. You know what I mean? I just feel like, and Bowman is one to me, like I get it. It is a benefit to have a quarterback that experienced, but he's never been that good to me. And it's like, I do think like your floor is safe with Bowman as a quarterback, but your ceiling might be limited, if that makes sense. Mac, any chance you're taking Oklahoma State over under?
I'm going to join them. They're so old, and I also think they treated it last year as a preseason in the first 3 games. They basically threw the South Alabama game, still got over the finish line. Brian Nardo, I think defensively they're going to be better in year 2 in the system. The head coach from Canada came over. They bring everybody back. I'm with Troy. Bowen, just don't fucking throw 14 interceptions, especially when you didn't even play the first 3 games. I don't even know how you threw. I mean, Ollie Gordon's going for 2,000 yards and you threw 4. How's that even possible? So just hand the ball off and get out of the way.
Yeah, look, I lean under, but that's only because of the target. The target that's on them. But there's no way I don't see them like bowling or winning. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like they could easily be 11-1, like you said. Like I or 12-0, whatever. I don't know about 12-0, but I think they could win double-digit games, and that's why I don't feel comfortable locking up the under. Rush, any chance you're taking the over, the under on the Cowboys?
I'm back in the circle, boys. Let's take the over. Gundy's just that guy where you just look up at the end of the game and you're like, how did they win that game? He just does it time after time. If you didn't even have a scoreboard in the game, you'd be like, oh, the other team definitely won that. And you're like, how did he pull that one out of his ass? He just, every time I doubt him, he just figures it out. And you know what? Let's pass that joint around. Gundy, baby.
Triple lock for the Oklahoma State Cowboys on the over, which, hey, Noah, shout out to Noah Beanick behind the scenes. Is there any way, what'd you say that number that you were getting at, Troy?
There's 8 and 8.5, which the 8 is, obviously
what's
less
the juice on the 8 though? That's what I wonder.
I will have to look it up.
No,
I saw it as 8 too.
I saw it at DK as 8 today, but I don't remember what the juice was.
Minus 130 at one of the books. So that's
not bad. Yeah, that's not that bad. So yeah,
I think you at least push that 8.
Yeah. So get on over there, folks. Take those Cowboys there.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Next up, Rush, what do you got on the board? I know you just locked up, joined the lock party there with the Oklahoma State Cowboys, but you got anything else you still want to play?
Going back and forth on 2 teams here. I'm going to go TCU under. I 7.5 is I think they're going to be better than they were last year. I think they're going to go bowling, but I don't see them as an 8-win team. 7-5 just feels right for them. So a little bit of a bounce back, but kind of still middle of the pack. I don't see how TCU grinds out 8 games. I really don't.
I'm with you. I still don't want to lock it just because I feel like they kind of have a decent, like Stanford, Long Island, and SMU to me are all winnable. They beat SMU the past couple of years in the Iron Skillet there. And that's, I agree. I lean under, and I'm pretty fringe here. I almost thought it like this one was in my contention with BYU is like trying to convince myself, but I just think there's enough there. I think you're going to cash, but I still think like, okay, could I build a scenario with 8 wins, Stanford, Long Island. And if they did beat UCF, even though I favor UCF, it's not by that much, then they could start out 4-0 because they get the Iron Skillet on the 21st. And then, okay, I got them losing to Kansas, but then they're hosting Houston. And that's still the first like 5 games for Fritz. So I can see TCU winning that game, and that's 5 wins there. And then you're asking yourself, what would Baylor be like? Could Aranda be fired by November 2nd? I think it's in the possibilities. Texas Tech's already taken a couple injuries. That is in Almond G. Carter Stadium. Check out the Stadium Heads podcast for more on that stadium. But there's and then even the Cincinnati game late, which like I said, I think they're going to lose that game because they're not going to care about the season at that point. So I agree with you, but I'm just not going to lock it up. Mac, any chance you're locking up TCU?
I'm staying away from this one. I had this right down the middle, 7 or 8 wins. I think they're not as good as they were 2 years ago, not as bad as last year, somewhere in the middle. I think I probably leaned to the under at 7-5, but we just did this preview and I think Hoover takes a step, but I'm staying away from this.
Yeah, and I should note that maybe we have a live FCS dog with the fucking Long Island Sharks. Love that on the schedule. Let's go. Troy, any chance you're jumping on this party there in Fort Worth?
Large chance. I never say no to the joint. If it's getting passed around, I'm hitting that thing. I think I see this as a 6-6 team. They're depending on a Cal linebacker transfer and Nnamdi Obiazor from Iowa Western Community College to start at linebacker.
Said that name with confidence too. I remember doing the TCU preview and I was like, Azur. Well said, buddy. I mean, look, I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna be right. But anyway,
I just don't see the talent on defense. I think I'm still scared watching the clips of 4 missed tackles per play against Colorado last year, and then not really seeing any kind of uptick throughout the whole year. It's not that hard to play defense. It's just you got to give a bunch of effort all the time, and I don't feel like TCU does that. I think they're a 6-6 team.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm just not. I'm close. I would say this: if you forced me to add one more lock out of any of these, this would be the one that I would choose. Because I feel like it's a pretty safe bet. It's just, what's that?
Sorry, Colby. Here's what I'll say is you'll know this bet early. I think it all comes down to the UCF game. Loser of that game's going under. Winner of that game's going over. That's my prediction.
That is that. Okay. I mean, that is a huge game, I would say, as far as win total goes. What we got a double lock on the under with the TCU Horned Frogs at 7.5. Jump on over there, folks. Shop till you drop. All right. Wait. Who gave that out again?
That was Rob.
I did.
It's like, wait.
Back
I was
to you,
like,
Colby.
okay, it goes back to me. Well, I'll be the fucking asshole to do this. All right. Here we go. I'll have you know that I am 5-0 the last 5 seasons of Colorado overs and unders. The over is cashing on this Colorado 5.5 win total. I'm not saying they're winning the Big 12, but I'll tell you this: that defensive line, the O line, I'm still like starting Jordan Seaton. I've seen some tape. Okay, he seems like a guy, but who knows, right? See, the tape looks good, but obviously he was a 5-star. But at the same time, I think getting Tyler Brown, who should have played last year, but the NCAA is fucking horrible. But I don't buy all the way in on the O line yet. I got to see it. But I'll tell you where I do buy in on. I buy in on the defensive line. The players they got, the 2 guys from Pitt, the kid from BJ Green from Arizona State. I do believe this defensive line is legit. And if you think I'm just a homer because I like Colorado, I'll have you know I happened to nail the under 3 fucking straight years at the beginning of that 5-year stretch. So I'm taking the over on the Buffs. They cashed for me last year. I think this is a bowl team. Anyone want to come or anyone want to battle? Let's go.
I want to battle so bad, but I could see 6-6. I had it coming down to the end of the season. Now let me ask you this: if they're out of contention, do we get a little bit of load management with Deion's kid, Shador, Travis Hunter? I just don't trust the coaching, man.
That's fair.
I gotta see it.
Well, I didn't like if one thing I came away from last season is that Deion still has to prove to me that he's a good football coach, right? Like I'm not saying he's bad, but he's got to prove it to me. The one thing that I will say though is that a lot of people, Deion puts this target on himself.
Yes,
but I feel like last year was a success story as a Colorado fan. Like they did exactly what I thought they would do. Now I thought they'd beat Stanford, so I thought between 4 and 5 wins, and they ended up with 4 because they blew the Stanford 29-point lead. But another thing is like Travis Hunter was out for like a month. I think that was gigantic when he got injured. But where I really buy in is we didn't have the Buffs had maybe the worst defensive line in the country last year, right? I think like as far as Power 5 schools go. This defensive line, why I think this is a huge hit on the over is because the secondary's there. If you just gave him a little bit of defensive line, you know what I mean? Like just a little bit of pass rush. I think the secondary is actually good, right? So I think that's the selling point. Now you bring up a great point though, is that if they are cooked, I do worry about what's the buy-in late in the year, but I do think that Deion is a player's coach. Like I think the players want to play for Deion. So to get them to a bowl game would be a milestone for Deion, first off, to shit on the naysayers. And then, but I do still think there's room for concern though, because if you're talking Shador Sanders as a top 10 pick and Travis Hunter, like I don't know, I can't tell you with 100% that those guys will be suiting up in the final month of the season. But I think they can also I think they could win. Like Pac-12 was really fucking good last year. In my opinion, it was the second best conference last season. So like it is a little bit of a drop down to me. And then the team is better. Like the team on the line of scrimmage. We know the skill position players weren't the problem. It was the line of scrimmage. The O-line, I still got to see it, but they brought in a bunch of guys that have starting experience. I still got to see it. The D-line, I buy into it because those guys were good elsewhere. Both the guys from Pitt, I liked at Pitt. They could have gone anywhere. If they went to, if they would have went to Auburn, I'd be saying the same fucking things. Same with BJ Green at Arizona State, right? And the kid from Ohio that came in. So I am buying in there. No one else joining though. Troy?
I'm actually going to lock the under.
Woo!
Hey, there we go. Battle.
There we go.
The late season schedule is going to kill him.
The coaches he faces.
How is that? Okay. Well, that's the angle.
And the non-con right off the bat does scare me. I actually think that North Dakota State is the easiest of the 3 non-con games that they're going to play.
I don't know how everyone's just sucking the dick in Nebraska. They haven't won a close game in like 7 years.
I think Nebraska is the one that they would get too. Like, I think Colorado State is the scary non-con for them.
Oh yeah, I agree. I would agree with you. I think that's the one to me. Like, I mean, you could still lose to Nebraska. It's not like Colorado's dominant. You know what I mean? Like, you could still lose, but I favor them against Nebraska. But the Colorado State game, playing both your rivals on the road back to back, very stupid scheduling. Very, very stupid schedule. I appreciate you're going to Fort Collins and giving them, having that game, but put North Dakota State in between them then, or put the FCS in between them. I'm with you. I think to me, the scarier game is Colorado State. And that's the gist I got when I was at Mountain West Media Day talking to a lot of the players. That's the one they have circled. So, and you knew they were going to have that circled, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's the bigger one there. So I'm sorry, continue your point.
Well, even if they beat Colorado State, then they've got to lay an egg spot against Baylor too. So that's the really scary part there is there's a chance that they go 3-0 in this non-con and look kind of impressive. And that Colorado State rivalry game leads into kind of an egg. But I mean, even if we give them 3-0 and they've got to get 3 more wins, you're looking at what? Baylor, Cincinnati, and Texas Tech. They're going to have to win all 3 or go on the road and beat either UCF or Arizona, maybe Kansas at the end of the year because it's not a true road game in like Arrowhead or at the MLS field. And I don't know if I want to put that win that late in the season on Dion, depending on like if they were to start hot, have a bunch of hype, and then maybe lose a few games. I could see the team kind of worrying about NFL futures a little bit more than the last 4 college games of their career.
Fair.
Now we got a problem. Now we got a problem.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
We got a battle in Boulder. Troy Tuning said, Dundee, you're a fucking idiot. Give me the buffs on the under. I'm on the over. Just saying, 5-0. 5 seasons in a row, I've nailed the fucking buffs.
Smoking that Colorado weed.
What's up, Beck?
Colby, let me ask you this. We had a debate with the chat on our episode, Rush and I. Is 6-6 considered a successful year for Colorado?
Good question.
With their fan base, probably like Dion brought unrealistic expectations this early, right? For me, it is like to me, but
yeah,
I think for your average Buff fan, I think they'll still be saying, what the fuck, but they don't understand this is a process. And and a lot of people, I gotta re-emphasize this point. Everyone just assumed like, oh, Dion used the portal. Fuck you guys, first off. Because if you paid attention to Colorado the year before, their whole goddamn team left. All right. Their whole Christian Gonzalez, a 1st-round draft pick, went to Oregon, right? Makai Blackman, who started in the secondary for USC, who's in the NFL. Brendan Rice, son of Jerry Rice, went to USC. Mark Perry, who started safety for TCU in the national championship, right? I can go on. Florida State had an offensive lineman. Duke, Elko had an offensive lineman, right? We can go on and on and on this shit. They had 26 players leave. So everyone that says Dion is the first one to do this shit, get the fuck out of here. We got bit by it, and then we decided, hey, we got to be proactive and bring fucking players in that actually are decent because they took all of our good players. Anyway,
spoken like a true buster. So we agree with you that, and I ended up going 5-7 because they were pissing me off. So I ended up giving them a couple losses at the end. But we agreed that 6-6 is a solid year 2 for Dion.
Oh, I would take
Absolutely.
that. I would take that right there
Well,
because you build on that
2 years ago.
You make the fucking chimichanga bowl or something, and you build on that. But what's
I think if the 6 wins are North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, and then Cincinnati and Texas Tech, I don't know if you can call that a success. I think if they go 6-6 and they get Kansas State or Arizona or Kansas or something, then yes, it would be a success. But beating the 6 teams
Colorado's schedule is crazy. They've always done this since the 90s. Like they schedule stupid, right? And like having North Dakota State on the schedule is stupid. Like if one would do that elsewhere, you know what I mean? There's a reason why North Dakota State hasn't played. They played at Arizona a couple of years ago because Arizona was in a complete, they just weren't paying attention to football, right? And before that, they tried to get games scheduled for like 6 or 7 years. I think the last team they beat was Iowa at Iowa. So that like putting that game on the schedule, and they put it on pre-Dion. It was even pre-Mel Tucker. So that was like one of the stupidest fucking things. But they've always done this. Like I said, going back to the 90s. In the 90s, they could live by it because their talent level was fucking super elite. To build it up again is stupid to put that many losable games. Like in all reality, you could build a case that they could lose to every single opponent. And that's dumb. You got to give your team, put a fucking UT Martin on there. You know what I mean? Put a Cal Poly on there. And they didn't do that. And they've never done that. That's not a Dion thing either. So I just say like 6-6, get to a bowl, build on that. I'd be perfectly fine. But I will say this, man, the secondary has talent, elite talent at certain spots. If you get a little bit of a pass rush, that defense could be really fucking good. And that's what I'm hoping for. The O-line, I don't know. We got to see. Starting a freshman, always scary. You know what I mean? Rush, any chance you're on the Buffs over or under?
I lean towards the over, but I'm not going to lock it. I think 6-6 is what they end up doing.
Yeah. All right. Well then, Mac, it goes to you.
So this is the league. You want to fade the hype team, and then you take them the following year once they break everybody's heart. Texas Tech over 7.5 wins. Everybody's talking playoff last year. They got snake bit. They lost a tough game in Laramie. They lost a heartbreaker to Oregon. Then they lost a heartbreaker against in Morgantown. So they were 1-3 to start the year. I don't think people realize they end up finishing 7-5. Morton basically won every single start except the game he got banged up against K-State. Brooks, love him out of the backfield. So I like Texas Tech over 7.5 wins, and they don't draw K-State and Utah on the schedule.
I was about to say, if you're going to make a case, if like we deem Cincinnati the easiest schedule, or at least I did in the Big 12. If you're going to battle it, I think you battle it with Texas Tech, right? Yeah. And now I'm on the over, and if you listen to our preview, I was like, this is lock territory. My only problem is they've been hit with a couple preseason injuries, and then I hate that they're bringing in a second doctor for Morton, because you're just like, every Texas Tech. Now here's the thing: Texas Tech gets quarterbacks injured every goddamn year, and the next one throws for like 700 yards the next week. So I don't know that I should be that worried. I'm with you on the over. I'm just not locking it up.
They've managed 7 regular season wins back-to-back years with 3 quarterbacks. I think they get to 8 this year.
They should have beat. Yeah. I mean, they really should have beat Wyoming. They should have beat Oregon.
Yeah.
Like that's what's funny is like reading this narrative. Like I think Dan Lanning's done a great job with Oregon, but I also think like everyone's in love with the media is like sucking them off right now, right? And I'm like, well, they should have lost to Texas Tech. Like Texas Tech had that game won and kind of pissed it away. Anyone else joining Texas Tech here, Troy? Any chance?
Texas Tech got sent to the glue factory last year when Rush picked them to possibly win the Big 12.
And Baylor.
I think I'm going to stay away from this Texas Tech team just in general. Like, I don't know if I'll bet on them any week throughout the whole year. It's going to take at least 3 or 4 weeks of me watching them play football to have any idea of what this team is going to bring to the table. I would lean the under, but that's the issue with the Big 12 is that 1 or 2 random wins for a Texas Tech team that, people didn't really have a good idea right off the bat. And maybe they do throw the ball around pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised at this going anyway. So this is one that I'm actually staying away from for the first time on the show.
There we go. Rush, you big Texas Tech supporter after last season. Any chance you're going back to the well?
Yeah, I'll join Moneyline on this, right? It's the year after the year. So we had the gambling gotchas, great guys for Texas Tech on the Rambling Rush, the Ryan and Rush show yesterday. And they were talking about it and I pulled up their schedule and then it hit me. I'm like, this is a great schedule. And just out of their schedule, this seems like a solid 8-4 team. I'm taking the over here. I'm joining Moneyline.
We got a double lock in Lubbock. The schedule is great. And I will say, Mac, this is a great point too, is that McGuire, it's year 3. He was obviously a Texas high school coaching legend and the recruiting was really good. So you're going to get more of his guys on the field by year 3. And maybe that could also, help you get that over. All right. So Texas Tech on the over. Troy, it bounces back to you. Got anything? I mean, there's only 34 more teams left in the conference to talk about, but you got anything left on the card?
Not anything that I feel super duper strong about. I kind of see the 6.5 from West Virginia and want to lean over. But I think for the first time in my Neil Brown loving career, I'm going to take the under on West Virginia, actually.
Battle.
I don't. If they can beat Penn State in week 1, then everything kind of changes. But going 2-1 and beating Pittsburgh on the road in that non-con, then they just get right into it. They play Kansas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and K-State. Ugh. I don't know. They're going to have to go down the stretch. They're going to have to beat UCF in their second to last game to have a shot at this over, I think. And I don't know. I think UCF might be able to go on the road and get them in Morgantown.
Bold talk. Do we have a battle on Max just having a sip of his drink? But Rush, it seems like you were about to battle him, perhaps.
Yeah, let's do it. In-state.
Now we got a problem.
Sorry, I was just gonna play this great music.
You're good.
Did I do wrong?
We got a battle in Morgantown. Oh, Noah Beanick saying hail to Pitt.
Oh, shut up, Noah.
3-9.
Rush, I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No. Penn State's officially on upset alert. I said it back in January.
I'm with you on that one.
You're talking Pitt home game. That's a West Virginia home game. Are you kidding me? Pitt doesn't have fans that show up. Like there'll be West Virginia guys there. No problem there. Morgantown's a tough place to play. I know we have Kansas, and Iowa State, but those are all in Morgantown. I like the latter part of our schedule. Even we have to go to Cincinnati, but Morgantown will travel quite well to that game. This team I'm leaning towards 8-4. I'll do the final predictions on the Ryan and Rush show, but I also want to make a note. Even though we were 8-4 last year and 8-4 this year, because of the schedule, would be better compared to last year.
Yeah.
I think West Virginia goes 8-4, and because of that, it's good enough for Neil Brown to find his next job probably in the SEC. And this is hot take: Neil Brown's last year in Morgantown.
I was thinking about that. Me and Mac were talking about that on the West Virginia preview, but. I forgot John Summerall's a Kentucky guy too. So they'll have their pick at who they want if that happens. So there's a chance that he might not even get the full invite there. But I lean over with West Virginia. I'm not locking it though. The schedule is challenging. Playing 11 Power Fives, and then the Albany Great Danes. Don't sleep on the Great Danes.
No, right? I'm not. We've been warning people.
Yeah, but I lean over with West Virginia. I just don't want to lock it. I feel like the schedules are just a lot hard. Say like I feel decent about the over. Mac, you're gonna pass on this one, huh?
No, I'm going over, man. I hate the schedule, but I love the team coming back. I think they're good enough to win the Big 12, but the schedule may prevent them from doing so. So if they can somehow get to Dallas, I think they can win the game and get to the playoff. But I mean, they didn't do them any favors. They didn't get that Texas Tech or Cincinnati schedule or the schedule they got last year. So let's go. Beat Penn State.
Oh, I like it. I do like that spot.
I think
what's that?
I was gonna say I think even playing the under, I would still bet the exact wins at 7 as well.
The Pitt game is huge. Obviously, the Penn State and the Pitt game, they can't lose both of those. I feel like, but at the Pitt game, there's rumors that
Dan Marino and his really dynamic wife
will be there to catch out to catch the backyard brawl. All right. Well, look, now it jumps back to myself, and I don't know about you guys, but I still have like probably the lock so the lock that I trusted most is probably UCF in this one right here. Arizona State is not winning this many games.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you've paid attention to the injury wire too, they've taken some hits on the injury front already this offseason or this, camp in August. But, and I'm going to Tempe, and I hate to say this because, they were kind enough to invite us out for a game, and I'm going to the Kansas game there. But, this schedule's insane. Now, I will say Harrison Whaley getting injured for Wyoming makes that game a little more winnable. But you want to talk about a schedule where you could go 0-12? Like, I'm not saying they will, because I think Tempe in the desert, the fake tits will be bouncing. But I just can't build a scenario where this team is anywhere close to 4.5. Like they'd have to win 5 games. Where the fuck are the 5? I think they're going to get smacked at Texas State. I will lay double digits with Texas State in San Marcos against Arizona State. That place is going to burn down. If I had a fucking private jet, I would be in San Marcos that night. They might be able to get Mississippi State, but like, that's like 50-50. Yeah. That's 50. Like, I just don't see it. I don't like, okay. In conference, the road spots are what? At Texas Tech, at Cincinnati, at Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, at Arizona, and the Dust Bowl there, the Territorial Cup. Maybe Cincinnati, maybe the home games. Good luck with your fucking home schedule. All right. In conference, it's Kansas, Utah, UCF, and then BYU. Okay. Maybe if Sataki's fired, but you still can't build me 5 of these. To me, if they win like every 50-50 game with the scenario built in, like, okay, let's say they get Wyoming and Mississippi State. Like I said, they're not winning against Texas State. I can guarantee you that. Right. And then they go to Cincy and upset them. That would be 3, right? Well, where the fuck is the 5th win? 4 being BYU. Sataki gets fired. That's 4 though. Yeah. Where's number 5? It ain't happening. I think 0-12 is more likely than 5-7. So,
amen.
Give me the under all day on the Sun Devils. I think it's one of the better plays. Anyone joining?
I'm joining you. I'm actually optimistic on Arizona State and Dillingham, and I still only got the 4-8, even with an optimistic take. I don't see it. I don't, especially new league. 3-9.
Any Troy?
Yeah, I'm locking this under.
Let's go.
The best chance they have to win games would be, Wyoming, Mississippi State, and Texas Tech. And like we were talking about with Willie Fritz, Dillingham might have the team playing better later in the year, but sadly they're going to be playing other teams that are significantly better and probably also playing better later in the year. So yeah, I think this one's going to be a quad lock if I can read Rush's reactions.
Here's the credit I will give Arizona State is I agree. That's my last lock. I have a nice list of them. I think they have 2 wins going into that Arizona game. and they play spoiler to Arizona going to the Big 12 championship. That's and that gets them to 3-9. That's I think the role Arizona State plays. But I agree, there's nowhere on their schedule that they're getting 5 wins. I cannot see it at all.
We got a quadruple lock here. Sun Devils on the under. Shout to you, drop. And I'm surprised that he threw the slander at Arizona there, knowing that Ray Anderson, the athletic director, took some shots at Morgantown, West Virginia. But hey, I appreciate it.
I still have them only having 3 wins. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
It's not like
but normally you're
team.
like, oh, I hope Arizona sticks it, like those bastards. Anyway, shout out to David Matola who's saying go Wildcats there. Mac, it jumps back to you. And by the way, I am fresh out on
a great translation of that. Go Wildcats.
Beanick.
Shout out to Noah Beanick doing the Lord's work behind the scenes. Mac, do you have anything left on the board?
I had one more, and this one, I know nobody's going to want to do this one. Another year after the year, everybody's wrote this guy off. He's fired. When Baylor has their back against the wall, that's when you back Baylor. Over 5.5 wins. Baylor, he's taken back over defensive play calling. Spavital's coming in to call play calls. Finn coming over from Toledo. I think they go back bowling, and he survives. Everybody's already talking his replacement. Give me Baylor to go 6-6 or better. Let's go Circa.
Well, I don't get.
They're paying players now.
Oh, I love the shirt, and I'm with you. I'm on the over, but I'm not locking this up because the chance that like they just. He could be fired at any game. Like if they open up with a dud or two, and then it's like, how much is the buy-in after that? I don't know. Maybe Spavital could ignite them as an interim spot. I don't know if they'd even turn to him, but I definitely like the over. I think Aranda is a better coach than what people think. And I think the fact they're paying players and leading into it does matter. And last season they would have hit the over had Aranda not been such a nice guy and told Kyron Jones to transfer at the transfer window there. He's like, hey, we're going to start Blake Shapen. Well, then guess what? Blake Shapen gets injured and Kyron Jones is playing great ball and you could have had him. You sandbag instead of a gun. Anyone else joining on the Baylor over lock train?
I think for Baylor to hit this over, they're going to have to go on the road and beat Colorado. And I don't really know if I see that happening this early in the season for them to go up there. Not going to quite have the talent, and I don't really see Aranda as that coach that is going to outcoach Prime every single time. I think there's a few times that Aranda, we've seen his teams just completely lay eggs. The non-con conference matchup against Utah, they kind of hung in that game last year, surprisingly.
Should have won.
But going on the road kind of changes everything in that matchup. They've got a really tough road schedule. I don't know how many of these road games are going to be able to win. And even the one that would be winnable is Houston, and it's the second to last week of the year. And Willie Fritz is 10 times the coach as Dave Aranda. I might still lean towards the over here, but this isn't one that I'm going to lock up. I don't know how long Lex Luthor is going to be on the sidelines for Baylor.
Rush, what are you doing there?
You guys don't want me anywhere near this if you have the locks. Whatever I say, the opposite's going to happen. So I'll stay away. But I will say what I find funny is I feel like you guys are acting like, oh, even Ryan said it like, oh, Baylor's paying players now. They've always been paying players back in the 70s. Like, what do you mean now? They've always been doing this. There you go. So I'll stay away from this so you guys can hit your over. But I mean, I think 6-6 probably sounds right.
Yeah. Anyone got? I mean, Troy, you got any more? I mean, I feel like we've talked about every fucking team almost. What team didn't we talk about? Anyone locking Utah on the over or under?
I mean, I would think about locking Kansas State's over at 9 or 9.5. I think they're probably a 10-win team. They just have that culture in Manhattan where they fight every game, and they've got the grit and the talent combination where it works really well for them. I I don't know if I'm 100% on it, but that's just one of the last ones that I would think about maybe leaning towards taking the over on.
I big fan of Tony in the chat. He goes, West Virginia's going to the championship, you stupid bastards. There we go. Right.
I like your energy, Tony. Let's go.
Comments I want to hear.
I also see the comments about possibly seeing GJ Kinney coach Baylor next year. Is this one of those big time conference plays where Texas State makes the playoff and gets seeded against like number 5 Alabama, and GJ Kinney doesn't coach the game because he's hired by Baylor in between the final regular season?
That happens. He's got
better stay for the fucking playoff game.
Yeah, if that happens,
or we riot.
Why would you even want a coach that did that then? Because that could happen to you, babe. If Florida comes calling or something, you know what I mean?
When you're a stepping stone school, you got to kind of consider yourself. The rationality would be coaches are going to do that to Baylor if they have good years. They're going to get out of there as soon as they're offered a better job. So I don't know.
I don't understand that though. Like, can't you just do the same thing you're doing? Like, they got to fix the portal window. That's the only reason why they want this shit to happen. Like for the coaches to come early. I think every school moving forward should put that in their contract. They have to coach if it's a playoff game, if you're in the fucking playoffs, you have to be there to coach. You know what I mean? Or, unless your wife's giving birth or some shit like that, you know what I mean? But, any other plays, Rush? Any plays out there?
I am tapped out.
All right.
Colby, what about a fringe lock on this one? Kansas under.
I like it. They've
hit the over 3 straight years. They're not even playing at home this year.
That's why I love the under.
Is get hurt. I mean,
my
over on them.
Well, my only thing is like Leipold's such a good fucking coach that he will steal a game or two that you're not thinking. But the fact they don't have a home, like, how do they fuck this up and not have like the year they're finally could make the playoffs? They don't have home games. Good job.
Colby, the one red zone stop out of 50, they allowed scores on 49 of 50 red zone trips to opponents last year. The one red zone stop was an Oklahoma missed field goal that they won the game and took the fucking goalpost down it.
Oh, that was great.
It was great. Then they put in like a pond behind the fucking stadium.
Did you see that video that came out?
I've been to that pond. It's a piece of shit.
What were you saying, Rush?
I think the videotape of the security guards came out of them talking after the goalpost came down, and they're like, well, they took the goalpost, but you guys did an all right job. Like, it's the security guards. It's like, what do you mean you did an all right job?
That was your job, right? Yeah.
He's like, other than that, you did the best you could. It's like, oh my god.
Well, it was fresh off that Ole Miss had beaten LSU, and that security guard had checked that what the fuck's happening here. Had checked that woman storming the field, and it was like he's probably paranoid that could be him. Anyway, let's get to the futures market because I do have to go on a podcast in about 13 minutes here. Future market, I think we kind of revealed our hand. I love the UCF play at plus 900 to win the Big 12 championship. You can also find odds to make the to make the title game. Obviously the tiebreaker, they haven't announced the scenarios. That is such a pain in the ass with all these conferences. They're plus 425 to make the championship game. I think I like their chances at that. That's one of my stronger plays. Mac, do you have a play? Do you agree with the UCF? And is there another one that you see to play for the championship?
I mean, this is a kind of a league where you want to fire on a bunch of them and just sprinkle the long shot to me. I like Oklahoma State 8-1 with all that experience. I like Kansas 11-1. I know I just said the under, but if Daniels is electric, he's back. And I like West Virginia 20-1. Only team that returns 3 guys that rush for over 750 yards. So those are my 3 long shots to win the Big 12.
Interesting. So the Kansas slander, but yeah, with Leipold, you never know. He's that good of a coach. But Troy, do you have any plays to win the championship that we have not mentioned, or do you care to talk about any of those ones that Mac just mentioned?
Well, I've already played UCF and Oklahoma State straight up to win the Big 12 title. So those two are definitely two that I agree with. But I'm going to go to Arizona at 11-1 as I could see a huge discrepancy in their win-loss totals. I could see them maybe only winning 5 or 6 games. I could see them winning 11 games. They've got a really tough schedule. But when you have that quarterback and wide receiver connection, we've seen that win Big 12 titles on its own. And they certainly have, if not the best, one of the best in the nation, not just in the conference. So I'll take that. I'll take that 11-1 on Arizona, and probably 40-1 on Fafita to win the Heisman too.
I do like Brennan. I think he's an upgrade actually at the coaching spot.
Oh yeah.
Rush.
X's and O's wise, at least.
Yeah. Rush, do you have a play there that you like that maybe might be a long shot? After this, we're going to do our championship game prediction, the playoffs. But do you have one that you see value in that you're taking?
The quick 4 that I wrote down in terms of value that I really like is Texas Tech 9-1, Iowa State and Oklahoma State 12-1, and then West Virginia 19-1. I think you can go either way with those 4. I think they have a lot of great value behind them.
Love it. Yeah, to me, like, and I guess my UCF one, it's, they're plus 900, but I'm saying I kind of like them to play in the championship game. So if I was to take a long shot, I would say to me, let's go, Dion. Let's go. If that defense is ahead of schedule, like where I think it could be, I think that defense could be a problem for the. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this conference. Is this the best quarterback conference in America right now?
Yes.
I think you can make the argument it is.
Definitely with depth.
Coaches too.
Yeah. If I'm looking for someone super deep though, I would say like West Virginia or Colorado would be the long shots that I would sprinkle. My championship game is the Utah Utes against the UCF Very Golden Knights, which sucks because it actually fucks. Like UCF is going to be playing for that game. Utah has already clinched the final game of the season. So on November 30th, Utah is going to play at UCF in a regular season game. That regular season game, unfortunately for Utah, will not matter, which is why UCF will win it, and you will get a rematch, which kind of sucks because you'd like to see something different. But that's my championship game. I only have one team making the college football playoff. I'm hoping for 2, but I think only one team will, and I think it's the Utah Utes. Mac, what are you doing as far as how many teams make it, and what's your championship game, and who's winning it?
Championship game, I will predict the 3rd straight year of the same championship game. I've gotten 50% right back-to-back years. K-State and Oklahoma State again for me in the Big 12 title game. And I have K-State going in with 2 losses, Oklahoma State with 3 overall. Oklahoma State gets revenge from the game in Manhattan, knocks K-State out of the playoff, and I'm going to lose my fucking mind because they're going to crowbar a Big 10 and SEC team in instead of K-State.
I could totally see it.
That's gonna happen.
I could totally fucking see it. Troy,
Yeah.
Who do you got? So you only have one team making the CFP, but for so far, me as well. Troy, how many teams do you have making it, and what's your championship game, and who's your champ?
So I mean, obviously as a biased Big 12 fan, I still think they can probably get 2 teams in. But it's going to have to play out where Utah beats Oklahoma State in the regular season, and then Oklahoma State gets them back in the championship game. And then maybe Utah still slides in as like that 11 or 10 seed or something like that. I think the experience for Oklahoma State is very, very underappreciated right now. And just seeing a depth chart with that many seniors on it just gets me juiced up. It's like real fucking college football instead of all this bullshit that we have to deal with right now. If you're not good enough to start, don't go somewhere else where they're going to cater to you to start. Get better at football and earn your starting spot. Oklahoma State wins this league, but there's a chance that they beat Utah in the regular season too, and we only get one team in if that were to play out.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they get 2 in, but I don't think it's going to happen. Rush, what's your championship game? Who do you got winning, and how many teams are in the CFP?
Yeah, so a couple quick notes here. I think it's very important to look at the last 2 weeks that the Big 12 has scheduled. I think these could be, in a way, de facto quarterfinals and semifinals for the Big 12 championship. Iowa State has Utah and Kansas State the last 2 games. Oklahoma State throughout the season has Utah, Kansas State, Texas Tech. UCF and Utah play the last game of the season. So if you're right, Colby, that'll be a repeat back-to-back weeks. And I think the Big 12 showed their hand here. And I think this is my prediction. I know it's a little chalky, but Utah and Kansas State do not play each other because I think they believe that is their best bet to get 2 teams in the college football playoff. I have Utah, Kansas State playing in the Big 12 championship. I have Kansas State winning it. And because of Utah's past, I think they're going to be able to get Kansas State and Utah both in the college football playoff.
Oh, there we go. Someone got it with 2. Let's go. Well, I guess Troy kind of did. Folks, that's our show. Next, we will preview the AAC and the Sun Belt. And that'll be in the next few days. Season's right around the corner. Make sure you give everyone a follow. Moneyline Max on Twitter at Moneyline_Mac. Troy Tuning is on Twitter at Troy Tuning. Rush Bishop on Twitter at Rambling Rush. They are the hosts of the Big 12 College Experience. They are covering Big 12 everything. All right. So get on over there, subscribe to the Big 12 Experience. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. And look, check out the College Football Experience as we continue to break down all 134 teams. I got like 26 left or something. Fuck, I went to the doctor. Dude, I went to the doctor. My doctor, like, they checked my lungs and everything. They're like, oh, you're fine. But they like took some blood samples. They called back. They're like, you are very close to having a fucking stroke. Right. And I go, no, that's normal. That's normal. That's what we do. Let's go. All right. Check out the Stadium Heads podcast too. The College Basketball Experience. Mac's been killing it with these coaching interviews. Go listen to all those. And, Beanick on the boards, but he kills it with the College Baseball Experience. Check out all of those. We all come together as one on YouTube, youtube.com/the College Experience. Subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast and check out this New Mexico podcast. I'm going on in 4 minutes. This is the College Football Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here. Run, shoot.